Photographers have been taking pictures of the Scriver building from the corner of Division and 4th Street for more than a century. They have recorded its evolution both as a piece of architecture and as a commercial hub. This photo from the Historical Society archives was taken around 1874, a few years after the stone building was constructed. Compare it to what you see today. Many things are the same, thanks to extensive restoration work in the later 1970s. What is different, though? Notice the wooden stairway. That was added in 1875 to provide direct access to a dentist's office on the upper level. Later replaced by a metal stairway, it eventually was removed altogether. It was restored after the Historical Society bought the building. Look closely and you'll spot other differences. The street is paved now, not dirt or mud, and concrete sidewalks have replaced the boardwalks that people clattered along in the late 1800s. The building experienced many other changes over the years, changes captured in other photos from the archives. In 1888, a sloped roof replaced the original flat roof. A few years later, 2 dormers were added. In 1929, workmen installed a stairway on the far side of the building and enclosed it in stucco and brick. In the 1930s, the Division Street side of the facade was changed to match it. One by one, the Division Street storefronts were modernized with brick and stucco. The front was remodeled in the same style after 1948. The photos also record the march of technology. Telephone poles began popping up on the block near the turn of the century. The wires they carried connected customers to the telephone exchange in the central block across the street. As the number of customers grew, so did the number of wires and cross-arms on the poles. 2 cross-arms turned into 5, and then into 7. Around World War I, telephone poles disappear from the photos and street lights appear. Horse-drawn carriages make way for horseless ones. From Model Ts in the early 1900s, touring cars in the 1930s, and then sedans and pickups in the 1940s. Activities inside the building changed a lot over time, too. The front shops facing Bridge Square were occupied first by the Lee and Hitchcock dry goods store on the left and Scriver's store on the right. Early in 1873, the First National Bank moved into the back portion of the building facing Division Street. That set the stage for the attempted robbery on September 7, 1876, and for countless reenactments during Defeat of Jesse James Days, held annually on the first weekend after Labor Day. The event celebrates how townspeople thwarted the James Younger gang, killing 2 of them, and ending a period of outlawry on the frontier following the Civil War. For more details, we recommend that you tour the museum. In May of 1878, First National Bank moved to the front of the building. When the bank moved across the street in 1893, the Northfield Post Office moved in. It operated there until 1922, nearly 30 years. By 1932, the front part of the building housed the Jesse James Spud Shop, later called the Jesse James Cafe, and for many years Colby's Barber Shop occupied the basement of the building. The Art Floral Record Shop moved in after World War II. Owner Norm Olson sold flowers, records, greeting cards, and photographic supplies there. He also broadcast radio shows. He called his daily show Breakfast in Northfield. His half-hour show on Saturday afternoons was called Session for Moldy Figs. It featured Dixieland jazz. By 1966, stores like Nelson's Time Shop, Jesse James Barber Shop, and Low Realty were filling the Division Street shops. In the parking spaces in front of them, Thunderbirds, Studebaker Larks, and Chevy sedans were bumping bumpers with VW Bugs. By this time, much of the building's distinctive 19th century architecture had been erased. Soon the Jesse James Cafe was gone too, bought out and replaced in 1973 by a real estate firm. In 1975, the Scriver building once again came up for sale. The committee coordinating local events for the American Bicentennial raised $125,000, bought it, and founded the Northfield Historical Society to run a museum in it. On July 4, 1976, the building was dedicated to public service, and the Northfield Historical Society began to restore it. Thanks to the Historical Society's hard work and the continuing support of members and visitors, the building now looks very much as it did the day the James and Younger gang rode into town in 1876. To explore other buildings in downtown and the history they represent, pick another podcast from the guide.